didn't mean to turn my studio into my normal filming setup, but here we are. Hi, my name is Robin Hahn. I am a disabled opera singer, and this is my spoiler-free review of Maria, the Maria Callas movie. Except, like, it's sort of hard to give spoilers for a movie that is about a thing that really happened in 1977 and about the career that took place over the course of years before that. Like, spoilers are one thing, but, like, history is another. Before we dive in, if y'all don't know who Maria Callas was, this isn't one of my, like, opera profiles, and I'm not gonna go do a deep dive and research and cite sources and any of that stuff. And I'm not really gonna be talking about accuracy of this movie either, but the sort of TLDR, if you don't know who Callas was as a figure, according to Wikipedia, let me go take a look. Wikipedia says, Maria Callas was an American-born Greek soprano and one of the most renowned and influential opera singers of the 20th century. She was particularly well known for, like, her really, really in-depth emotional interpretations of characters, like being one of the strongest actors on operatic stages, and she was, like, often featured in the tabloids. She was so famous. So let's start with the movie. Great. No plot, though. Like, straight up. It does not aspire to have plot. This whole movie feels like a portrait. And by portrait, I sort of mean oil on canvas portrait. So, like, go see this movie if you are in the mood to actually watch a portrait of a person singing and crying and talking and walking for 2 hours. That is really cool because a portrait is moving and doing stuff, but a portrait, it still is. So yeah, this movie does not aspire to plot or story. What it does aspire to is beauty and feeling and immersion in the world of this woman, and that it does super well. It's got beautiful cinematography, like beautiful cinematography. Every frame looks a little bit like a stage, which cannot be an accident. Beautiful, really naturalistic lighting that just, like, it's just so gorgeous. Wonderfully, meticulously constructed sound design, and of course, real, like, care for the sound of the opera itself. So, like, the craft on display in this movie, phenomenal. Truly stunning and, like, very deep and impactful, and it's got tons of symbolism. It's great. Beautifully done. Just, you know, not a story. I think it wouldn't be inaccurate to think of this film, directed by Pablo Larraín, as a phenomenal work of art and kind of not a very good movie. But really, why are people talking about this movie? Why did you click on this video? It's because of Angelina, right? The casting of Angelina Jolie as Maria Callas, when this was announced, I don't remember when it was now, but I remember going, right, this is like the perfect casting within Hollywood. I can't think of anyone in Hollywood more appropriate. Angelina Jolie is one of the best actors there are. And, like, while individual features of hers don't look super like Maria, her whole face is very like Maria. But that's just before she even performs, right? She's phenomenal. She's great. This is the role that I feel like Angelina has been waiting for years to really just show what she's got. Angelina Jolie is a very grounded actor, which is to say that she is a very sort of naturalistic, realistic actor. And that fits really well in this sort of very naturalistic, very thoughtful, very quietly surreal, and very, like, deliberately slow type movie. Now, to me, that's not 100% what I would think is appropriate for a study of Callas. Not because I don't think she is a great actor and the best in Hollywood to play this role, but because Maria Callas is a diva. Being a theater person, you are larger than life. You take up that space, and particularly for an opera diva, right? My favorite parts about Angelina as Maria were when she was having the biggest emotions, when she was crying, when she was betrayed, when she was angry. That felt the most Maria to me. I think partially because Maria was not only such a larger-than-life figure, but also such a larger-than-life figure in opera. She's La Divina, and coming from an opera singer's perspective, the size and scope of La Divina is, I think, what I was expecting, rather than the internality of Maria. I also do think that some of the, you know, like, very few, but definitely present, lukewarm reviews of her performance are coming from expecting that operatic type character. But I personally don't lay that at Jolie's feet at all. This was the perfect performance for this script and this director and this movie. And if you wanted more, you know, Callas in this Maria, then honestly, what I think you wanted was a different film. Yeah, it truly is a phenomenal performance. Her voice, in the sense of her speaking voice, we'll get to the singing voice in a minute, but her speaking voice is very, very Callas. Very, very well done. When you have been an opera singer your entire life, you have long ago stopped thinking about how to resonate, right? Like improving it every day, yeah. And certainly when it's definitely something that you're thinking about. And certainly when the voice is failing, as it is at the end of Maria Callas' career, it's harder to get. But that doesn't mean that she doesn't always have that body memory. So Maria Callas, in all the like interviews that at least I've heard of her, she talks with a lot of resonance. And Jolie does do that, but not to the same degree that I think Callas does. That said, an impression of someone, whether it is intended to be like exactly the way that they were, varies movie to movie. It suited this movie, the slightly quieter, the slightly less bombastic personality. Angelina Jolie's performance is a total tour de force. I am very impressed. There were these really long takes in this movie because, as I said, it's very slow. They spend a lot of time just with Maria. And her performance in these moments where we're not cutting and we're just looking at her, just exquisite. There's a reason she's been a shoo-in for Oscar all year. Now, she does not sing for most of this movie, but where it really comes up in her performance is this. Angelina Jolie is lip syncing a lot here, and the lip syncing is really well like synced and all of that stuff. If you know singing technique, and particularly if you're like me and you're familiar with any of the bel canto family of techniques, and Callas certainly came from that technique, there are things in there that you will see and notice. Like in terms of the muscles Callas activated when singing and the ones Angelina is activating when she's lip syncing. They're not the same. There are movements and things that an opera singer would be doing when singing that Angelina Jolie is not doing. There's a sort of technique phase, right? Particularly from the bel canto family of techniques. There's a lot of mug going on in that. And all opera singers will know, y'all know, singing is not flattering. I've never seen a photo of me singing that looked good. And yet Angelina Jolie is like beautiful at every moment. So sometimes we're missing the big operatic breaths. Sometimes we're missing the sort of curl to the upper lip right here. So like, is it exactly the way that Callas would have sung when we're right here? No. Does it matter? Also no. We've opened the can of worms. Now let's talk about it. The voices. It is Callas. The recordings of her, but like mixed more or less depending on the scene with Jolie's voice. Angelina Jolie trained for months and months to sing, even just slightly mixed with Callas's voice. And depending on whether we're hearing a flashback or not, there's like more or less of Maria or Angelina. And like the stuff that's meant to be Callas in her prime, in like flashbacks and stuff, like it really sounds like just her. 100%. They just mix them to try to like unify the sounds a little, which was really, it was the move. Way better than trying to find like a voice double or something, which I was scared of. This is also taking place at the end of Callas's life, where she's really struggling with the voice and is not performing. We do hear her sing some at that point in her life, because this whole movie takes place, I don't know if I said this whole movie takes place in the last like week of her life, right? That's pretty well established. Not spoilers. Like, we figured that out in the first 20 seconds of the movie. Anyway, when we hear Callas before her death, we hear more Jolie than Maria. And honestly, Jolie getting herself to the point where she could even be mixed with La Divina, even after Callas's career, is heckin' impressive hard work. If we're gonna quibble, though, and this is my video, so quibble I absolutely will, a voice that had lots of overtones, lots of harmonics, and then has faded is slightly different from a voice that is developing and doesn't have all its harmonics, right? To me, the Angelina Jolie part is super impressive, given she only worked on classical sound to prepare for this role, but it's not how I imagine a quote-unquote faded opera diva would sound, and rather like an impressive adult student might sound. Which, like, it's a tiny distinction, honestly. And again, this has no bearing on how much I enjoyed the movie, but y'all came here for an opera singer's perspective. And an opera singer's perspective is what I shall give you, dang it. There is a scene where you will hear the switches between hearing a bit of Angelina and a bit of Maria, like moment to moment, which is really interesting and cool. But like, you know, that feels like it's an Easter egg. All things considered, I really, I'm into the opera in this movie. Now, anyone who knows me knows I have some feelings about when opera pieces are in movies, and particularly when opera pieces don't make sense for the plot of the movies, even when they're supposed to. But luckily for me, Maria is not Shawshank Redemption, and that is not the case here at all. The arias that are used over the course of the movie, perfect. 10 out of 10. They match the plot perfectly. Like, they change some historical events to change one meeting that happened at one opera to be at another opera so that they could use the score from this opera to happen at this meeting, which is a better match for the meaning of the scene of a meeting. It's just really well done. So you see, like, the symbolism is really strong here. The arias used throughout are really, really thoughtfully chosen. Some of them are used like leitmotifs over and over again, meaning that they appear when we see certain types of themes coming up in scenes or when we are feeling a certain way. And a lot of these arias are played for really long stretches without any of these sort of hard cuts that you sometimes see in movies when opera arias are playing, to really sort of let them sing. So it really can afford to take that time to just let you hear all of the Ave Maria from Otello. Not all. Most. Quite a bit. Which is really cool. Yeah, if you want to hear me talk more about like opera in film, let me know down in the comments. And while you're down there, give this video a like. Little thumbs up. It really helps. But there's one thing I haven't talked about. Let's talk about Maria Callas and her health, shall we? Now, this movie is more interested in like Maria's use of medication and her mental health than maybe her physical health. Like, obviously her physical health isn't a component. This is about the end of her life, but it's more interested in that. It is not really presenting a diagnosis or anything, which, you know, is good because Callas never really got a single diagnosis over the course of her life. She got lots of many, many little tiny diagnoses to cover all of the things, which is pretty darn common even today, particularly among women, femfolk, and people of color with chronic conditions. Hi, middle of the night editing Robin here. I missed some stuff, so I'm gonna have to add some context. For example, among people with hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome like me, the average time between first going to a doctor for a symptom and getting the final diagnosis is something like 10 years. With a lot of people getting multiple non-systemic diagnoses before any doctor manages to string them all together under one condition, right? And like, now let's imagine how much worse that would be for the same groups of people seeking care 50, 70 years ago, right? Like Callas would have been. And then add on the added pressure of the operatic world's propensity to imagine the human body as this like divine instrument, leading to the belief that any issue with the body is either an indication of some inherent flaw in the voice itself, or some sort of moral failing, indicating that the artist is like not up to the task of singing this way. Like, woof. 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 All this to say, Callas was not exactly super jazzed about pursuing a diagnosis by the end of her life, perfectly understandably, given her circumstances. And therefore this movie does not spend a ton of energy in trying to like work out the puzzle of Maria's health as it would have been by this time. Yes, I do know that in 2010, a pair of vocal science people did seem to uncover a possible diagnosis of dermatomyositis for Callas, but that is beyond the scope of a film that takes place over the course of 1 week in 1977, so not relevant here. The movie does, however, spend a lot of time with Maria and quaaludes and hallucinations caused by those quaaludes. And like, while the film does spend some energy on making sure Maria herself states clearly that she never faked illness, it's only said once, and it could still be up to the interpretation of the viewer whether or not you leave the theater feeling like the film is trying to attribute quite a bit of her poor health to those drugs. Which no. Nope. Nope. That is not the interpretation of this film I like, and therefore not the one I choose to engage with. And like, yeah, the movie isn't exactly saying that. I just want to head off that interpretation at the pass, I think, because it could still be clearer on that. And her lifelong health issues are well documented. They are fact. When people tell you they are ill, please believe them. Faking illness is a like salacious, juicy story that is perfect for the gossip rags. The gossip rags that really loved to speculate about Callas's health in exactly that way in her time. But we rarely find truth in those kinds of shocking headlines, right? And the rate of actual faking is orders of magnitude smaller than the rate of the same accusations. There is too much ableist pressure in this world that reinforces the narrative that disability is bad, actually, and that health is a personal virtue, to allow for like massive, widespread fakery of illness. Illness is not drama. It is not diva behavior. It is part of the human experience, and while Callas may have been La Divina, she was human too. Here you go. That's my review. That's my 2 cents. Go see it. If you don't like it, I am really glad this movie exists. That's that. Just a reminder, if you were looking for a joyful little corner of the internet where we could talk about opera, disability, queerness, cats, and tea, you have found it. And if you weren't looking for it, you have found it anyway. So hit the subscribe button, ring the little bell, keep the comment section full of joy and light. I will see you in my next video. Do I have lipstick in my teeth? You should focus on my face. Do I have lipstick in my teeth? Makes sense? Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm making sense. I'm tired. I definitely have some dinner between my teeth. 100%. I'm looking for a word. I'm looking for a word. Lost a word. Where is my word? Also, go see Wicked. It's great.